So first, everyone, welcome. We're really excited to be having this. It's really unfortunate that we can't do, our actual idea for the program because of the virus, but we're making do with what we have, and I think we have the next best thing today. Um, so the idea of this call began with Kansas City's JServe program for this year, which was going to be, we were going to bring all of the Kansas City Council to one of the Artists Helping the Homeless dinner events that they host every Sunday night. And we were going to help volunteer and help pass out the food. And like I said, unfortunately, we can't make that happen this year. But hopefully in the future, we'll be able to still work with them. So today we have on Mr. Carr Wu, who is the founder and of the organization, and he runs the organization. And he has a really interesting story, and we're all very interested in how his organization is being affected by the virus and how the homeless population of Kansas City and around the world is being affected by all these mandatory quarantines and by the, unhealthy conditions, and by how all of the organizations are being affected because they can't help as much as they were before the virus. So Mr. Wu began the organization in 2008, at first just to start feeding the homeless population, but it's really blossomed into a multifaceted organization. So if Mr. Wu, if you want to get started talking about your story and what you guys do at Artists Helping the Homeless, that would be great.
Okay, well, the long story short, the elevator version is we started this program part-time 14 years ago as giving out food to homeless at the park. During the first 3 years period, I was invited to have the opportunity to create a program to address the non-emergency, emergency homeless population in hospital. I was allowed to create a program to address the population. So we started a very simple program by transportation to people that could not go to shelters. That was 10 years ago. This is our 11 years full time now. It's kind of blowing my eyes. I'm aging in front of everybody. And so, but from the humble beginning of handing out 20 meals, then 3 years later, we started a formal program giving transportation to the people in need. So along the way, I pay attention to what are the services that's being missing. So we create what I call a missing link program. So we kind of fill the gap so the people that help does not have a gap so they don't fall through the crack. So in the past 10 years, we have, starting from 2 vans, now we have 7 vans to drive around the metro area, making sure people get to their appointments and needed services. And we also open a respite house, so we house anywhere between 12 to 14 people average every day. We created an apartment for continual care, which is an 18-unit apartment. We could house up to 40 people. Within the apartment, we create a medical dental unit to provide proactive healthcare, because when you're homeless, all your healthcare is reactive. You cannot have a doctor. You have a family doctor, they don't. So everything is reactive. That costs more money. And then also, we also created more like a total wraparound service, meaning that we're making sure that they have the opportunity to slow down, to reflect, to digest what they want, then do some kind of planning to move on. So over time, during our humble beginning, last year we serviced over 2,000 people a year. We average at any given moment that our little program house around 70 people every single day. And so to put it in perspective, a shelter in town or in Lawrence that they house around 60 to 90 people. We house 70 people with no fanfare. And so, but we also provide a total wraparound service. That means we will provide transportation for them to go to work, go to school, go to all the needed appointment, the POs, court, whatever. We also making sure they follow all the needed protocols. If they need to follow, enroll with the PO, go to court, we making sure that we take care of those. And we provide them legal services so that in case they have legal challenges, we help them address those things, because if we have a legal service over our head, then our incentive to change is a little bit less. But if we can say that let's us address this issue, then we can move on from there. Because I'm foreign, and I think education is really important. Education is not because you make more money. A college degree does not make more money than a vocational training to be a whatever trade that they have. But it teaches you deferred gratifications, discipline, logical thinking. So those are very important skills in life. So that's why I encourage them to go to school. So we also create an educational scholarship. And all these things they will say, well, that the society has this, the community has this, why are you doing this over again? The reason why we're doing it is not duplicating the service. Like I say, the medical care, because it is not proactive. When you go there, it's a reactive. So we want to be proactive. Scholarship is the same way, because most of the young people that's on the street already tried to get their scholarship or their Pell Grant or their student loan. But because they live on the street, then they don't go, and then now they can't because you don't pay back your Pell Grant, you won't get to go. So what we can do is we buy them the 8 months period to pay back the little amount that they require so that they can get back on. So the difference is when you're young, 8 months is basically translated to be 1 year, because that's 2 semesters. So most of us will not go back to school to wait 1 year. And so we want to take advantage when they're ready, we can send them there. So, but once they go for 2 semesters, now they can go back and apply for the Pell Grant and the scholarship while they work and paying those bills. So the program along the way over the past 10 years has what I call a program to help people thrive instead of surviving. So that's also important in the long term, because we don't want people just to survive. We want people to thrive so we can all do well. There's less incentive to survive. Does that make sense? Is that good enough for a simple introductions?
Yeah, I think that's a really good explanation of the charity as a whole. I think everyone on the call would be super interested in how. First off, you have a super interesting story. I know you've told me about how you first off how you got to America and what you were doing at first when you first got here, and then when you got to Kansas City, your beginnings here, and then how that kind of transitioned into the into starting the organization.
Well, to follow through on that is, I come here as a foreign student at 18-year old. I got on the plane. I turned 19 on the plane with $50 in my pocket. So I am as panicked as every one of you and as scared. I cried all the way literally from Hong Kong to Korea. And so I think everybody on the plane was upset with me because I cried straight through. And I got to United States. I did not realize United States was a big continent. And I thought United States was one giant city from San Francisco to New York. So because that's how Hong Kong is. So anyway, so I went to, my destination was Iowa. So I never seen snow. I never know snow was cold or wet. And so it's all a surprise to me. And then I did not realize the dormitory do not let you stay after the first semester. I did not realize they kick you out. So after the first semester, I basically went, of course, I go back to where the Asian people are. I went to San Francisco to look for jobs. I walk up and down San Francisco to look for jobs for 2 weeks. So that that way, when in doubt, you go back to what you know. So that's why I go to San Francisco, because in Iowa, what can I do? So and so I kind of have a feeling of what homelessness means, because I had to be a single person, a 19-year-old, walk up and down on San Francisco street looking for jobs. And then I also, but then somehow I survived. I have always been able to work. I always work 60 hours every week and go to school full time to pay for tuition. I never got a grant. I never get a loan. Somehow I survived that way. So when I had the opportunity to move to Kansas City, I enrolled in KU. So I also got the opportunity to get my own apartment. So I was so excited. I got a credit card, max out my credit card to charge, put all my like furnishings and stuff like that in the apartment, because now I'm a grown up. I'm a junior in college. I'm gonna go to my own apartment. I'm gonna buy everything so I can move on with life. But unfortunately, or fortunately, the apartment I lived in while I was at work was burned down because somebody smoked pot. So I'm one of those people, I don't care. People say, well, pot doesn't kill. In my book, it does. Bless the young person. So at the time, he died in the fire because he fell asleep. And but then that made everybody in that apartment homeless. And so I become homeless overnight because I did not know to buy insurance. I was a foreign student. Who buys insurance? And I lost everything I just put on credit card and put in the apartment. So, and I become homeless overnight again, but I had to qualify that statement, but I never was living on the street homeless. Midwestern people are super nice. My coworker's mother stepped up and she said, come live in my basement. And my boss said, well, do you want to take a couple of days off? And I said, no, just let me cry for an hour. I'll be fine. I come right back to work because I have no place to go now. I might as well go to work. So I can have the understanding and the empathy for people go through, so I can work with them. So I think it's something that we always have to remember is all the negative experience, all the challenging experience that we go through in life, there's a reason why we go through it. It's because we can use those experiences as a learning curve so that when the time comes, we could be there. We have the better empathy and understanding what people go through. So if I never gone through those, I would not understand the people on the street, what they go through. I almost become homeless, not because I was lazy, not because I used drugs, not because anything. It was a circumstantial thing. But I am, as a first generation immigrant, I was more determined, so I get over it. But sometimes people don't have the determination or whatever the word, tenacity, like I do, because I'm just a really stubborn person. I come to the United States with $50 and I survived. I opened up a gallery with no money. That's how crazy I am. I literally say, okay, I don't know what to do when I graduate. My parent came over on the semester I tried to graduate. So, and suddenly I have a family of 4 to take care of. So I just have to like find a job to support them. So I become a waiter. I wait on table every night for 3 years straight to pay for their bills. But at the same time, I still have this dream. It's like, oh, maybe I should have something. So I open up a gallery. So in the daytime, I'm a gallery owner. At nighttime, I'm this waiter. I did that 3 years straight in a row. I literally worked 2 full-time jobs nonstop, 7 days a week. But that's what college teaches, is the deferred gratification and the discipline and the thinking. Without going to college, I would not be able to do the gallery because my major was in business. I understand if you open a business, you cannot have the money to survive. You have to do something else to survive. That's why I went to work as a waiter, so I can survive, to build something. So that's what college taught me, and that way I can continuously doing that. But then years later, those experiences really help because I hate the business, because I think business is really boring. But when you come down to nonprofit, if you didn't study business, that doesn't work. You have to know how to read all these statements. So so even though I took something I didn't enjoy at the time, I thought, oh, I hate doing this. But now later on, years later, it actually helps. Okay, Jack?
Yeah. So that's Carr was talking about his gallery that he started. So he actually got the foundations as a gallery owner and as a professional artist. And so he went through the process of opening up his gallery for the homeless population on the plaza. Um, and so I think it's really interesting that he was able to use what he had to help the people in need. Um, so, Carr, you could talk a little bit about possibly your partnership with the hospital a little bit as the artist doing their some of their sculptures. Um, you could also talk about uh, how you operate and how you're starting in Douglas County and Lawrence, or anything like that would be great.
So while I was in the gallery, because I saw the homeless people on the plaza, my heart goes out to them. Also because I didn't understand why in the world the richest shopping area in Kansas City has so many homeless people. So that's why I opened my gallery to let them come in to get food, get sleeping bag, get hygiene products, whatever. So KCUMB, the school that trained doctors, was curious why is this gallery owner don't kick them out, and but instead of inviting them in. So they did a study on me for 6 months to find out how strange I am. So um, also, uh, but because of the gallery that we have an opportunity to work with them, and so because my heart goes out to them, I was invited to create programs. I did that for like 10 years straight. This is my 11 years. A couple years ago, Douglas County heard about us. For those of you who don't know where Douglas County is, that's in Lawrence and the, what is that, DeSoto, I think. Yeah. And so they came over and looked at what we do. And then last year, they decided to partner with us to replicate what we do in Douglas County. So it took me 8 months to put together a program for Douglas County so that we could look at how to help the people in Douglas County to do what we do in Jackson County. So I was very thankful. Again, the reason why I'm very thankful is it's kind of unheard of in the nonprofit world that an county come look for you to ask you to replicate what you do. And usually you go back and plead with everybody, say, please help us. So we have the opportunity. But that kind of tells me that I was doing something correct. Because I have always, in the past 10 years, I always said, what if I can duplicate this in somewhere else? But say if St. Louis say that they want us to do it, then I will not be able to manage it. I will not be able to oversee it. So if it works, it's great. If the concept works, it's great. But if it doesn't, I don't know what makes it doesn't work. But Douglas County was close enough so I can actually manage it. And so that this way I can find out what works, what doesn't work, and our philosophy. So far we've been running it for the last 6 months. And so it's been working really well. So that tells us our concept is correct. Our concept is letting people thrive, letting people have the opportunity to look for what they want, giving them the true support and the coordination so that they can get somewhere. And so, and it tests to me that it works. And so I'm very thankful for that. And then of course, it's kind of nostalgic for me also because I came to Lawrence as a foreign student years and years ago. Suddenly I go back to be the people to help people. And I was thinking about like, people were supposed to be helping me at the time. So that was really, really good. But one of the things I want to share with you, how hard sometimes even like in this case, even the county have the the grace to help us to start, but truly believe in yourself is really important, okay? But at the same time, without a house, I cannot have a program. But the county cannot help you buy a property. You have to find the house yourself. So now I want to have to share with you how hard that really is, okay? So I have to go identify a property to buy with no money. But if I don't identify a property to buy, I cannot talk to the bank because the bank doesn't think, they won't talk to you if they don't know what you're working about. So I have to have the faith and the discipline to say, okay, I'm going to identify this building, this house that I needed, tell the bank this is what I want, and have the faith to say that I can get it. So then that means you're all too young to buy a house. Usually when you go buy a house, you have 30 to 60 days to close your deal for the bank. So now basically I would say that I have 45 days to find the money to put deposit down. So the reason why I want to share with you on that is the faith you have in yourself, you truly believe you do is right. So I believe what I'm doing is right. So I believe, yes, I can find this. Of course, my board, I have a board, every nonprofit has a board, think that I'm totally nuts. But I have to have the board's approval to even do that. So my board said, okay, if you can find the money, I'll let you buy it. I said, okay, I'm gonna go do that. So thank you, God, that I find some way to put the money deposit down. But what I want to share that not because what I did is because I think it's important to learn. Have faith in yourself on the things that you do. If the right thing comes along, it will work. If it's not the right thing, it's okay. Because if it's not meant to be, sometimes you have to do something else. I also have to use I used to own a building when I first started 10 years ago. I keep wanting to turn that building into an apartment. For 5 years, I could not make that work. I pray, I look for everything, but it didn't work. And so then one day it caught on fire. So to me, I did not take that as a setback. I took that as a God's way to tell me, don't be so stubborn. This doesn't work. Go look for something else. So I did. I went and looked for a house. I got the house done in 3 months. Then I went to look for another apartment complex. I got that done in 1 year. So sometimes we could be stubborn, but maybe that's not a meant to be project. But the funny thing about that is my insurance company that insure us in the nonprofit thought most nonprofit in the United States, 90% of nonprofit goes out of business within 3 years. Majority of them has a funding of less than $50,000. So when my building had the fire incident, she thought, I just talked to her last beginning of this year. She totally thought that I was going to give up. She said, well, the guy's going to give up now. So she was very happy that I did not give up, then I move on. So again, you can react to a setback differently. You can look at it as, okay, darn it, I'm not going to do this. Or you can say, okay, maybe I had to look at something else differently to make that work. So to me, I took the opportunity as saying that what I wanted, I was being too stubborn and too stupid to move on to something else. This is God's way to tell me, hey, let's do something else. And it worked. In fact, it worked tremendously. When I tried to buy the apartment complex, my board was thinking I was nuts and said, why are you doing this? But so have faith in yourself. You truly believe that what you do is the right thing. Okay? Jack, are you still there? You still there somewhere?
Yes. So I think everyone, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and post them in the chat and we'll get to them. I think it would be great if you talked about a lot of your operations are very hands-on and personal interaction with the people that you're helping. So I was wondering if there was any, how you guys are being affected by the coronavirus, you know, if your meals have been delayed, or if you have any new like standards and operations, or your medical care that you provide, how that's being affected by the virus. And then also how the population that you're helping is being affected by the virus and by these quarantines. So anything you have about that would be great. And then people start posting your questions in the chat and we can get to those.
Okay. Well, so like I said, instead of having my doctor and nurses come to my apartment building, so now I'm doing Zoom, just like what you do now. So the people I work with can work with the doctor still continuously to ask questions. So to kind of like eliminate the on-site visit, even though I still like the on-site visit better, it's a little bit more personal, but still at least we're not stopping the service. The Sunday meal service, I usually partner with churches. Every Sunday they come in and bring the food we serve together. But because of this coronavirus, most of them is backing out, not because they don't want to help, but because the population they help me serve tend to be older. Is for their safety, so they're not coming out. So we have to step up. Like today, right before this, I was telling Jack, I'm running around in Costco buying food so that we can fix it. So now we have to like put everything in bags to kind of hand them at a distance so that we can follow all the guidelines, so that we don't get our people that help us into trouble also physically. And then so our Thursday meal at in Johnson County in Center of Grace, we have done that for more than 10 years. It's a sit-down meal, and we serve 200 people there every Thursday. We had to close that down because we cannot have people gathering more than 10. So we had to totally close that one down. But the Sunday meal at the park, I'm still trying my best to keep that going. We have to cancel the transportation for all the DV shelters because we don't know how to be a little more, how to protect them and us correctly. And especially usually when we provide transportation for the DV shelters for court and for all the like legals or medical issues. But all the courts are closed now, so we can't even do that because now we basically have to say that we had to put that in the back burner for a few weeks until we know what the court systems are doing, or because PO is not seeing people either. So we can't even take people to see PO. You have to do phone calls, but you don't have in-person visit. And also then the other challenge that we face is, which is the biggest challenge, one of the most important job that we do as an organization is helping hospital detox mental health units to help them discharge their patients. But because of this challenge, most places that we work with is not accepting new people, period. So now put that in a different scenario, okay? So if these patients going in there, even though they have legitimate reason, they cannot be discharged or only can discharge the homelessness. Okay, let's look at this crisis that I'm sure you all heard about, flattening the curve. So now suddenly you have this particular population is taking up all the beds. So the curve is not being flattened, it still go all the way up there. So now we have to create new programs so that we can find way to house these people so we can do our part of flattening the curve. So I'm actually working on a new program so to partner with them so that we can house maybe 20 to 100 people alone so that they don't take up the hospital bed. So when the people that truly need it, they can have the hospital bed. And also we don't want them to be roaming around the street to get sick, because if they just got discharged from the hospital, you send them out to roam around the street and then they get sick. So the community as a whole need to step up. suddenly we are not talking about one individual. That individual can affect 10 other individuals. So suddenly that 10 other individual will affect 100 people. So now we have to find a way to work together. How can we help these people? Maybe not for a long term, but for the next 8 weeks. So we can help do our part as a small community, how to flatten this curve so that the hospital is not inundated with these challenges. And so we just sent a letter to the mayor's office and trying to put together a program. And I'm sending out so I'm hoping that we can put together a program with the city. What I mean by mayor is the mayor in Kansas City, not the Johnson, not Overland Park mayor. So maybe you guys can call the Overland Park mayor for me. And then so then we are trying to put together and we also talked to the hospital that we work with. So we want to put together an emergency funding source just to deal with this, so that these people that we work with are not stuck on the street. They're not stuck on, not like they will get sick, but if we don't give them an opportunity to be healthy during this crisis period, then they will get sick. But the challenge is, if they get sick, and I'm going to use the park as an example. I am one of the guilty ones. I still go to the park and jog, okay? But then I also see the people that I serve sitting around the park. I also see family running with their baby cart. And so what happens if that homeless person gets sick while you're running in the park? So it is a very scary scenario. So we have to all do our part to learn how to flatten the curve. Granted that the home stay at home is really important if there's no reason for you to be outdoor. But I'm one of the frontline person. I had to work in the front line. I still work in the hospital. I still had to work in those. So I still have to be very mindful of what we do. We changed all our policy. We had to clean everything, top and bottom, every doorknob, every car handles and everything. We spray and then you cannot find these things. You cannot buy them. I went to Costco 20 times now in the last 3 weeks and could not even buy one roll of toilet paper. And then thermometer is another challenge. I have gone to every store, Walgreens, CVS. I could not even buy one thermometer so that to help us to test the temperature of the people that we work with, whether they have a temperature. Finally, one hospital was kind enough to give me one. So, but we have 7 vans. We have all these, so we can't do that. So we're still fighting or trying our best to get some of those things. And we totally have to change our activities. All the classes, just like you are, all the outpatient classes, all the PO, and all the whatever training they do, everything is online. So suddenly we had to go buy a computer for the people that we work with so that they have a computer to go on their line. That's what I said. People say, why don't you just go online and do the social distance? How are they going to do that? So if they don't go take their class now, then they get penalized because they're not taking their classes. Now they may be sent back to jail because of that. But who is paying for all these extra computers to do that? And I just read the article about from Nonprofit Connect. So the Nonprofit Connect is a lot of nonprofits are struggling just to keep up to date. Like the Zoom was a really simple thing. But what happens if you don't have the money to buy the Zoom so that you can extend the time? What happens if you don't have money to buy the computer? What happens if you don't have money to buy the extra water to hand out? So those are all the basic necessity to change. So you want to add something?
Hi guys, I'm Zach. I work for Mr. Wu. I'm one of the house managers. I think, basically the way that the world's going right now, we have to be super careful about, especially hygiene and what we're exposing ourselves to. We still have guys that leave the house and they might go to work. They might even need to go visit a family member. And so we've had to like limit our restrictions in our respite house and in the apartment where we can have no visitors. There's no visitors allowed, period. The guys can't go on passes, so they feel a little bit more confined. We have regular workout and exercise routines we take the guys to go to the gym. That's canceled. So right now it's just trying to find a balance to make up for some of these things that we're accustomed to using and accustomed to doing with our guys, and trying to get them to buy in and understand that we're all making sacrifices. But ultimately, you know, we all know that this situation is pretty serious, and it's for the better good of everyone involved, that we just take extra precautions and measures to make sure that we are being as clean and efficient and smart as possible. So.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I think it's one of our initial goals with this program was to first, you know, get out and help ourselves, which unfortunately we can't because of the virus, but to show people that there are people that are less fortunate than us that don't often get seen. So I think it's something super interesting to think about, that the people you're working with, if they have online classes they're doing, they don't necessarily have the resources always to do them themselves, which is something I think a lot of people would take for granted. So I think we have some questions in the chat, and I think that Lydia Schwartz was going to ask a question. So Lydia, if you wanted to ask your question, you can do that.
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Wu. I'm Lydia. So I was just wondering if there are specific like homeless people who you repeatedly help and have gotten to know over a certain period of time and have kind of like gotten to know them on a more personal level. So
yeah. So what I learned over the past years is we want to help them when they are ready. And so if they're not ready, and so because we are small, so we can only help the people when they're ready, they want to help. So there are people, but one of the reasons why we consistently doing the park meal services to demonstrate to them we are here for you whenever you're ready. So you don't have to look for me. I'm here every week. You have my phone number. So that's the difference. That way we want to help them where they are at, not what we want them to be. I think that's where your burnout rate comes in, is because I want you to do all this, but they don't, you get frustrated. But we want to help them where they are. I have different level of housing. I have a housing here is more for people that's more motivated, want to do something. But I also have a housing in KCK that's for people that just want to coast. And so, because we can't force people, I can't force people to be a musician if they're not gifted that way, or I wish I am. And so I think to answer you, yes, I do know them very well. So whenever they're ready, then we are there.
cool. And another question that we had is, is there like a certain group of people that you constantly turn to and lean on in the process of helping these people?
On the meal side, we have like 10 different churches with partners, so that we constantly depend on them. But right now, it's kind of like a challenging period for us on that case in particular. So on housing side, it's very challenging because it's like, just like every nonprofit, you always try to find money to pay for the housing. And especially our concept is a respite house. That means we don't charge them to live there. We don't charge them to do anything. And so I think that's the problem. And so, but the difference is it buys them time to learn to reflect. Because if most transitional house, I don't know whether you understand, right? most transitional house in Kansas City, every one of them expect you to have money upfront to get in. So if you don't have the money, how do you get in? If you're homeless, okay? Or there's only one house in town they'll let you in for two weeks. If you don't get a job within 2 weeks and pay them rent and catch up, they kick you out. So realistically, that's not feasible. That's why we created a program to allow them to reflect. Because if you just, all you care is get a job to pay rent, then you are surviving, you're not thriving. So our goal is to help them thrive so that they have the opportunity to find out what they want. And again, not because of more money, it's because then it will last if you do what you love.
All right. And we did have a few questions on how us as a community can help. And I think one of the questions was, is it just adults, kids? What's the requirement for, like, how can we get involved in your organization?
Okay, right now, I mean, normally I don't ask for these things. Right now is a tough period. I think any supplies, like I said, I'm having trouble finding the thermometers. I'm having trouble finding toilet papers and like basic stuff like that we can always use. Before I never asked for things like that. Because when you house like so many people and like I might use only one roll of paper in 2 days, but when you have 20 of them, they add up quickly. And then the other thing is really like my philosophy is always like help one person at a time. If you give them your thinking, your philosophy, if they can pick up, that one person can give to the next person. That's how we build a community. We don't want to try to help the whole community because it's so overwhelming. But if you can help your next door neighbor, help that one person can do the same thing over time. I think in the long run, the community will benefit. And so I don't know what I answer you specifically, exactly what you could do at this moment, but I just think just step up, help that one individual, whatever you think that you could do, that little bit of things, you never know what will come back years later. I want to use that opportunity to jump in to say that the lady that helped me when my apartment burned down, they said, hey, you can stay in my basement for 6 months. I did. Guess what? A few years back, I'm very sorry, but it's also a blessing. You never know what happens. She was on her dying bed, and so she called me and asked me, can I help her son who is in recovery? Can I help her grandson who was in jail? So I got the opportunity to help her son to stay sober before she passed away. I helped her grandson to get out of jail and stay positive during that period. So we never know what comes back to us over time. It's not a short-term thing. It's not right away. When she helps me, she does not want anything from me. And I will never know what I can give back to her, period. But we never know. That's why that little bit of act of kindness goes a long, long way. And we just can't, I hate to sound cliche, it's in God's time, not in our time, okay? So just do whatever you could to find the program, the charity that you feel like you can work with, or do every little things. I'm sure your older neighbor next door is probably need all the help. So.
Okay. Okay, so another question was, where can we drop off toilet paper, thermometers, those kinds of things? Where do we drop those off?
Is on my website is 3625 Warwick Boulevard, KCMO. The address should be on my website.
You said 3625?
3625 Warwick Boulevard.
Our neighbors.
It's like hand sanitizers and like whatever those white.
Disinfectant, hand sanitizer. paper.
Yeah, and I'm gonna link his website in the chat.
Oh, good. You can do that? Cool.
We leave all the technology up to you guys.
What else you can think of?
Just
And then
Go ahead.
just to clarify, is it just adults or can kids help as well?
To help, but the population work with, how would I say, like in the park, the kids can, like before the kids can come play, give out cookies or whatever, but it's a little bit more challenging population. So young adult is okay, but kids, like, depends on what you mean by kids. I do have some kids that come out and hand out cookies at the time. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I actually asked the question a little bit wrong. I meant, is it just adults that you help or kids that you help as well?
On the population, I don't have, I house adults, if that answers the questions. Okay. And so I don't house family. The reason why we don't do that is because family usually gets more support. It's a single adult that don't, because the philosophy is you're single, you can work, you can do all that. But in reality, there's a lot more involved than just do that. So family are the challenges. When I first started, single male after 18 are the toughest one to place. They have no placement for them. It's getting better now. And then 3 years ago, now it suddenly changed. Single female is having a problem finding places. Before, single female has no problem. The last 2-3 years has changed. Family is always priority. A family with children is always number one priority. There's a lot more programs that address that.
I think something that you had asked too is kind of like who he relies on to help in situations like. So our program is it's a peer-to-peer model, and so basically the staff, like myself, we've all been in a situation like for the respite housing and the drivers. We've all been in the situation where we needed help. We might have been homeless or lost in addiction. So we've all been to those places where the new gentleman walking into the program, receiving help, gets to get one-on-one support from guys like us who've been there. We have a therapeutic empathy level that really can't be matched in something like this. And what it does too is for guys like me, it gives me a purpose. It makes me feel like, in my own personal journey, it makes me stronger and makes me more compelled to help others and be active in my own recovery when I'm helping other people get established in their own. And it's a pretty amazing thing because Mr. Wu can see something in somebody like me, and sometimes it takes that one person to look at you and believe in you, and your whole life can change. And I'm a prime example of that. So.
And I'm proud of him. I don't know how they do that.
Does anyone have any other questions that they'd like to ask, or anything that's been nagging at them that they want to hear? Well, I'd like to say that this has been a fantastic call. Everything you've been saying has been super interesting, and I can speak for myself and everyone else on the call saying that we've been super interested in what you've had to say. And we wish you luck in your organization and helping the homeless, especially during the times of this virus. And hopefully UUIO can help in some way by donating some supplies that have been difficult to find in the past couple weeks. Now, if anyone else has anything they'd like to ask, they can go ahead. But I think we're going to wrap up, and thank you everyone for coming.
Well, thank you very much for attending. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jack, for putting this together.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for. Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Good
This is
weekend.
awesome. Great. All right, I'm going to end the meeting, but thanks all. And programming continues throughout the day, so check the JSERT on-demand schedule for more wonderful inspirational moments. Thanks all.
All right.
Thank you.